Welcome back to Shannons Club TV, the show for all motoring fans to relive memorable stories from Australian roads and racetracks. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes, you'll find them all on the Shannons Club website, along with the full road and race histories by Mark Oastler and me.
Now stay tuned as we hit the road with a proud owner of our feature car, and we get some expert advice from the Shannons auctions team. In today's episode, the tiny rear-engine German car that has largely flown under the radar until now, the intriguing NSU Prinz.
In the May 1962 edition of Wheels magazine, Ian Fraser noted that, quote, NSU's Prinz is one of those interesting cars that has not found enormous favour locally, but which nevertheless has a strong band of keen followers. A car of German origin, but now assembled locally from a mixture of imported parts and locally found items, unquote. NSU was founded in 1873 and built its name on motorcycles. The Prinz, which made its debut at the Frankfurt Motor Show in September 1957 under the theme Drive a Prinz and You're a King, was NSU's first post-war car. It was a step up, maybe half a step up, from the BMW Isetta, Messerschmitt and Heinkel bubble cars, which had coaxed many German motorists off two wheels and onto four in the second half of the 1950s. Nevertheless, as late as 1962, only 27.3% of German households owned a car. Imagine a BMC mini-sized car weighing about 500 kilos with an air-cooled 583cc two-cylinder overhead camshaft rear engine producing 36 horsepower, two more than the Mini, for a top speed of more than 70 miles per hour with lively acceleration for the day. And with 8 inches of ground clearance, the Prinz would have negotiated Australian roads better than many lower slung alternatives. Mark, even in 1960, it would have been difficult to think of a more improbable race car than the NSU Prinz, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. But, you know, then in 1960 along came a race for stock standard road cars at Phillip Island called the Armstrong 500. Now that field was full of improbable race cars.
Standard Vanguard.
Exactly. But the beauty of that race and the notorious toughness of that 500 mile or 800 kilometre distance, it really allowed the NSU Prinz's engineering qualities to shine through, which I'll get to a bit later on.
In some ways, the original Prinz was almost like a rear-engined, rear-wheel drive Mini with its seating for 4 adults, and it even had sliding side glass. The version sold locally was the so-called luxury Prinz 2 of 1959 with all-synchro gearbox and better fittings. But Australians mostly preferred Morris Minors, Ford Anglias, Triumph Heralds, VWs, and then of course the Morris 850 as we knew the Mini. In conclusion, the NSU Prinz was a charming little device, built to a good level of quality and delivering impressive performance from its two-cylinder engine. But despite the low price, comparatively few found Australian buyers, and they are highly cherished in the 21st century. Mark, I guess its strong performance at Phillip Island proves the Prinz was pretty tough, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does. But the Armstrong 500 was only part of a much larger international performance heritage. The original NSU Prinz boasts a remarkable competition heritage in its homeland and numerous countries around the world, including Australia. In the late 1950s, it proved to be a formidable long-distance rally car in its class in Europe and South America. And its lightweight and rear-engine traction advantage also proved ideal for hill climbing, as it cleaned up all the production car classes on its way to the prestigious German title in 1962. Its replacement, the Corvair-inspired Prinz 4, was not sold in Australia, which was a shame because with its larger 1-litre single overhead cam inline 4, it was destined for greatness. The Prinz 1000, as it was known, continued to dominate German hill climb competition in the 1960s, prompting NSU to produce stove-hot 1000 TT and 1200 TT variants, plus competition-only TTS versions, which outperform many sports cars in both circuit racing and hill climbing. John, it's interesting reflecting on this blind alley these manufacturers went down in that time with the rear engine. You know, you compare the size of an NSU Prinz with a Mini 850, they're almost identical in their dimensions, but the Mini just became massively successful and hugely influential. The rear engine cars just died a death.
Well, it was as if Ferdinand Porsche set the template with the Volkswagen Beetle, and everyone followed him because of Renault 4CV, and then all the little German cars were like that.
Yeah.
And then, someone in Britain had a great idea. Let's build a car in Scotland with a brand new workforce and put the engine in the back. That was the Hillman Imp.
Hillman Imp, yeah.
And that actually was a road to nowhere.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? Like the Mini, this was rear-engined, rear drive. Mini was front-engined, front-wheel drive.
Yep.
That car has just been massively influential in the future design of the motor.
And it was also interesting, at the time, nobody said unconventional rear-engined rear drive car. They said unconventional front engine, front wheel drive car.
That's right.
And that became the orthodoxy.
Yeah, that was the one that broke the mould, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. In Australia, the NSU Prinz starred in the first running of the Armstrong 500 production car race held in 1960 at Phillip Island. Local distributors, Continental and General, entered a 3-car team in the smallest car class, spearheaded by multiple Australian Grand Prix winners Lex Davison and Doug Whiteford. The NSU Prinz trio faced class competition from locally assembled European rivals, including the Fiat 600, Renault 750 and Lloyd Alexander. The NSUs may have been the smallest cars in the race, but that paled into insignificance as the brittle track surface started to fall apart and damage numerous cars throughout the 47-car field. However, the 3 NSUs seemed unaffected. With their light curb weights, supple long travel suspensions and generous ground clearance, the rugged little German cars seemed to thrive where others struggled. Davison and Whiteford won their class at a canter, finishing several laps clear of their teammates in second and third. It was small car dominance on a grand scale. Although private Prinz entries could not maintain the advantage when the race moved to Bathurst, the 1960 Armstrong 500 clean sweep will remain an impressive legacy for this high-quality and innovative German marque. Remember to join the Shannons Club, where you can connect with other enthusiasts around the country.
G'day, I'm John and I come from West Planet Hills, and you're looking at my pride and joy. It's a 1959 NSU Prinz, which is 60 years old this year. It's a German car made just after the war. I'm the third owner. I bought the car 30 years ago this year. The car is in much the same condition as I bought it. I've only had to do some minor repairs. Independent suspension all around. It's got sliding side windows, which is interesting. It's also got a colour-coded speedometer so that you know what gear you should be in by the colour. It's a 4-speed gearbox, all synchromesh. The car is a very small engine car. It's a derivative of the NSU motorcycle engine, 583cc engine. It's got 2 cylinders. It's a 4-stroke, so there's no oil mix to worry about. It's an easy car to drive. It's got a very good rack and pinion steering. The wheels are right on the corners. It handles very nicely. It does go around corners quite well, although I don't do that very often. A car like this, you don't tend to push it. Its performance is quite reasonable. It seems to cruise happily at 90 for about the first hour, then you can get it up to about 100. It's a very rare car, and I enjoy taking it to places where other people can see it. I've driven it to Canberra, to Newcastle, to Kiama, the Central Coast, up to the Hunter Valley. It's never let me down. Ears are a bit crooked at the end of it, but it's good fun. I've been a fan of Shannons for quite a few years. I think they're a very good company. Future plans are just hang on to it and keep driving it around. Until I can't drive anymore, then I'll have to work out what to do then. Maybe put it in a museum or something.
Shannons National Auctions Manager Chris Borobon is here with a market update of the NSU Prinz.
Welcome, Chris.
Hey, John, how are you?
This is a really rare car in Australia, isn't it?
And what a little treasure. But it's from an era where manufacturers could approach cars differently. It wasn't just one size fits all.
No, that's right, correct.
And the Germans had this thing about little rear engine cars, and it was the step up from the motorcycle.
Yes.
A lot of families went from the motorcycle, motor scooter to the car.
It was
and
the era,
NSUs.
isn't it? I mean, that was the era where we did see a lot of, small capacity, vehicles like the Goggamobile, the Heinkel, the BMW Isetta 300 or 600. So it sort of fits along those lines. And if anything, it was probably slightly roomier than those micro cars.
And when BMW made a real car rather than the bubble car, the BMW 700, that had the engine in the rear driving the rear wheels too. The same sort of formula.
But this would have to be quite rare, like an Australian assembled NSU Prinz. I think Australia, I think it was Chile, was about the only other country outside of Germany that were able to assemble these cars. So if you had an Australian plated NSU Prinz, I wonder how much that would appeal back in Germany, because in Europe these cars have quite a following,
I'm sure.
don't they?
Yes.
Look, and again, it's trying to find a nice original car that's been preserved. And I think really the club scene is where I'd be going to try and find one of those.
The Prinz 4, the model that followed the one that was here, with very sort of Corvair styling, they had some really, really hot versions of
And
those
there was
in
a
Europe.
Sport Prinz too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or a bigger engine as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
1000cc
bigger
and
engine,
1200, I think.
Yeah,
TT
1100
and
and
TTS.
1200.
Yeah.
Big as that.
And we never
Huge
saw those
engine.
guys.
Yeah, huge. It's a big block. So it was a shame, because it's a really interesting, it's an intriguing kind of car, but it's just a shame Australia didn't get those hot ones, because I reckon that would have been, with the interest in something like a Hillman Imp or a Hot Mini, whatever, it would have been right
Indeed.
up there.
Indeed.
So if someone's looking for one, where do you start? You're not getting them across the blocks. Is it just purely eBay, car clubs, that sort of thing? Or what do you do?
I think the clubs, support would be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks mate.
Very much,
No
Christoph.
problem, guys.
And remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest auction news on the Shannons Club website. If you'd like your own competition image of the NSU Prinz, visit the incredible AutoPix Motorsport photo archive.
It's pretty sad, I guess, in summary, when you look back at NSU, that company, got bought by Volkswagen in 1969, merged with Auto Union, which became Audi, and by 1973, these rear-engine cars had all disappeared. So, it was a sad time in history, given how innovative that company was.
NSU is a very bold company, and that R080, which was the end of the company because the engines unfortunately weren't they didn't have time to do the testing, they had to rush the car to market.
The rotary
engine. It could have been the best car in the world, the NSU R080.
Yeah.
And owners would go past each other with the finger signals, how many engines have you had inside? But a lot of the technology in that R080, like the aerodynamically efficient shape, resurfaced in the Audi 100.
Yeah, so the NSU,
a few years later.
Yeah, it's sort of that heritage sort of lived on. And it's interesting looking at the heritage. At one stage NSU was the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer, making that transition to car manufacturing the same way Soichiro Honda started to move from bikes into cars. But NSU
you met the nicest people on a Honda.
Exactly. I remember that. But NSU, the history, they were an incredibly innovative company who made some very unusual things, didn't they?
They were innovative even in World War II, where they had the Kettenkrad, which was kind of a half motorcycle, half tractor. So they were very innovative then. We hope you've enjoyed reflecting on the miniature masterpiece that is the NSU Prinz, and we'll catch you next time on Shannons Club TV.